know what I mean? You can put a label on a life, put a label on a lifestyle, you know? Put a label on how you wake up every morning and go to bed at night.
So now we come to the good news on the realities of fat. Last time I talked about how it's physically impossible to stop storing fat. No matter what you eat, some of it's going into your fat cells, regardless of what your diet looks like. And that's not a bad thing. That we've got this myth going on in our fitness culture that fat going into your fat cells makes you fatter. No, that does not make anybody fatter. If it were the case, then everybody would be gaining weight because everybody does that, except for people who haven't eaten, you know, or are starving to death on desert islands and things like that. If you eat, you are storing fat. It's as simple as that. However, like I said, that never made anybody fatter. Fat going into fat cells never made anybody fatter. People all the time, I'd be eating an ice cream cone or something, like, that's gonna go right to your fat cells. I'm like, what do you freaking do? I don't care. That's not going, that doesn't mean anything because fat going in never made anybody fatter. Fat going out never made anybody leaner. It's the balance between the two that is ultimately determining your fate. The balance between the two, not one or the other, both in relation to each other. And I get a lot of times people are asking me questions like, how do I burn fat? Why don't you just ask, how do I stay on the planet Earth and stop flying up into outer space? How do I make sure that I'm getting oxygen when I breathe or anything like that? You are. You always are. It's not something you have to turn on and turn off. That's what's beautiful about the human body. You are burning fat always, and maybe to some extent, not maybe during an all-out sprint down the track or anything, but you're talking for a few seconds, if that. Okay, so you always are. But you're like, well, how come I'm obese? It doesn't matter. Burning fat never made anybody leaner. Gaining fat never made anybody fatter. Ratio between the two, which means that all these things that are this makes you gain weight and this makes you lose weight and this makes you store fat and everything, they're not in control. They're not causes, which is beautiful. You don't need to worry about the glycemic index. You don't need to worry about your heart rate zone while doing cardio. You don't need to worry about all these things promising fat burn or fat storage or anything because they're only a piece of the puzzle. You can pay attention to that and use it if you like, go ahead, but you don't have to. You don't have to avoid sugar if you don't want to. Just don't eat too much of it. The other thing that is beautiful is that your body fat loss is over the whole body. Okay, now in the previous video I talked about how it pools and you've always got some areas of your body where you're gonna have more and some areas you're gonna have less and there's nothing you can ever do about that. However, losing fat, or gaining it too, if you want to look at it that way, is always a kind of a total thing. So, if people want sometimes, what's an exercise to get rid of this kind of thing? Trust me, you don't want that. You do not want an exercise that can remove fat from one area of your body. You want abilities to move it all from your entire body. Because think of what a pain in the neck that would be. It's well, I do this diet to lose weight, to lose fat on my belly, and I use this exercise to lose fat on my arms, and I have to do this diet, an exercise program to lose it on my legs, and I have to use this sort of program and this sort of eating style to lose it around my neck. And you couldn't do it all. So that's how it's beautiful, is you lose it all over the entire body. How wonderful. You don't have to worry about piecemealing everything out. You can just do it all at once. And then the final lesson that is great about it is that it's not dependent on any one single diet or exercise program. There is no program or exercise or workout that causes fat loss. It's impossible to say so. There is no food or diet or anything that causes weight loss or weight gain or anything else in between, which means it's all optional. None of it is mandatory. Some of it's going to be a better idea than others, sure, why not? But if you don't want to give up coffee in the morning, don't. If you hate running, don't. If you love swimming, go swimming. You can do this how you want to do it, and because there's nothing really you have to do. So, thoughts down below. Till then, be fit, live free.